Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
And now we have arrived at the ultimate section of Liberty Nation Radio, which we entitle Talkin Liberty. It's when we welcome back our regular contributor, LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor, and the man we like to call our guardian of individual liberty, Scott Cosenza. Hello, Scott.
Hello, Tim.
Great to have you. What a week for Supreme Court watchers, and you certainly are among that number. This is something that we've discussed, you and I, for the longest time. We talked about the Kavanaugh hearing and how I kept saying to you during that fight that it seemed that they had picked the left the wrong fight, because the Kavanaugh selection, taking over from Kennedy, moved an already center-right court a little bit more to the right. But because they tried to torpedo Kavanaugh, it actually cost them in the next Senate election, so that they had 53 Republicans instead of 51, and that's going to wind up being the difference here. So they pretty much sort of log-rolled themselves into a position where now, when they really need to fight, where they really need to stop this nomination by President Trump, they're in no position to do so.
Yeah, between that and the Harry Reid elimination of the rights of the minority in the Senate when it comes to determining high-level court appointees, Tim, you have to say that that's exactly true, that the Democrats have, stabbed themselves basically in both eyes here at this point, because they're going to face a Supreme Court that is their undoing with much of their policy goals, I believe, if we look, sort of forward-looking, if Trump does get that third appointee. And they are similar to the other two appointees with their judgments. That's what we have to look forward to. And it will be the Democrats' own undoing.
So we've been hearing about this stuff now for a week since the sudden, it was a sudden jolt, although, of course, you battled cancer for years. So we've been hearing about this for a week and how it's a seismic shift in the court when you replace the progressive, who's the thought leader on the progressive wing of a minority wing of the court to begin with, and you replace her with the opposite, a constitutional conservative, shifting the balance of the court. We've heard all about how this seismic shift will occur, but I'm kind of interested in focusing on something nobody's talked about, which would be the lonely trio of Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan, and how they're responding to all this. And they must feel like the Maytag repairman. Nobody's going to call on them, it seems.
I listened earlier this week, Tim, to Justice Thomas's memorialization of Justice Scalia. And he talked about how in their 25 years together on the court, there were many kind of lonely times when they were in dissent together and hard days on the court. And I would imagine that's likely to befall those lefty justices as we continue on with a court presumably, at 6-3 in terms of the ideology.
Is the left exaggerating, do you think, the threat to these issues that they hold so dear? Let's focus first, like a laser beam on abortion in Roe versus Wade, because they're scared to death that the rights they secured with a 7-2 decision in Roe versus Wade decades ago is now going to be endangered. Do you believe that it will come to the top of the agenda of this newly constituted high court to make a splash when it comes to abortion, if not completely overturning Roe versus Wade, at least affecting the issue in the direction of pro-life?
Well, things have been going, sort of not their way for quite a while in terms of the pro-life crowd. I'm trying to think of a major decision in the abortion area that has gone for them or against the pro-choice. I suppose some of the Obamacare type mandate cases have gone in a pro-life fashion, but all the other ones seem to have broken the other way. So the answer to your question is yes, I would expect some dialing back of the types of protections that are included in, the reproductive rights category that under the umbrella of Roe v. Wade. I don't expect Roe v. Wade to go away anytime soon, though. And that, Tim, is actually the hardest, I think, of the various sort of hot button issues that we might think of. I would say for guns, the opposite is true. I would expect an early gun case that's robustly establishes the Second Amendment as an individual right, perhaps inside and outside the home. And I would expect a lot of restrictions to fall by the wayside. So they're not all as complicated as abortion. And it's because of the way that abortion decision was crafted and its legacy. I think 73 is Roe, right? So we've had 47 years now of cases building on it, and it won't be quite so easy to dismantle, I think.
But let's look at another angle on this, Scott, because, we see this sort of tectonic shift in the court in the near horizon. And yet, as you pointed out on several occasions, 80% of the time or more, the justices either agree on a verdict or are unanimous in it on issues that you don't hear much about.
There's a funny Scalia quote. A lot of these Scalia friendship moments between he and Justice Ginsburg that have occurred publicly have been popping up this week. And one of them was Scalia saying, "Oh, she's only bad on the sort of hot button issues." And there's truth to that, which is to say there are so many more voluminous issues in the law that somebody like a Justice Scalia and certainly Justice Ginsburg can enjoy sinking their teeth into as an exercise in their, that's their vocation and their passion is these legal questions. It's not just about, this policy of, 5 hot button issues.
So let's conclude by bringing up something that would become an issue if Trump does win re-election, which is the more elder members of the conservative or constitutionalist wing of the Supreme Court. You've got Clarence Thomas, not so young. Is it possible that this would be an opening in a second Trump term to replace Thomas with someone younger and conservative?
Well, if Justice Thomas would agree to that, then yes, it is, Tim. I would imagine that he might learn something from Justice Ginsburg's example, which is that, you don't want to probably go out under a president whose policy prescriptions you may detest. And I imagine, why roll the dice at that? But at the same time, Justice Ginsburg said she would do the job as long as she could, as long as she was sort of playing with a full deck. And I think most Supreme Court justices, Tim, think that job is the best job going and don't want to leave it unless they have to,
Does this Trump nominee replacing Ginsburg remind you a little bit in terms of the dramatic nature of the shift of when Clarence Thomas replaced Thurgood Marshall?
I haven't processed it that way, and I think it's partly because of the other circumstances that surround this, this incident, which is the ongoing nightly riots in so many American cities, the looming election, and sort of threats to the republic. So it's all swirling around out there,
isn't it? Though. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Tim.